Our State of the U.S. segment tonight, Democrats have gotten their hopes up about taking back the Senate in 2018. But if they don't watch out, they may lose some seats of their own. 19 Democratic senators will be up for re-election in states with pivot counties. Counties that voted twice for Barack Obama and then voted for Donald Trump. So how do these Democrats expect to win re-election while their party continues to obstruct President Trump's agenda? With me now, the editor-at-large of Ballotpedia, Scott Rasmussen. Scott, good to see you.
Liz, always good to be with you. And, it's going to be a tough year for the Democrats, primarily because there's 33 seats up in the U.S. Senate. Democrats are defending 25 of them. A lot of those seats are in states won by Donald Trump. But when you mention the pivot counties, this is something a lot of people aren't really aware of or haven't talked about too much. In the 2016 election, these smaller counties, these people who felt left behind by the political elites, cast just 5% of all the votes, but they accounted for 51% of the Republican gains. They're the reason that Donald Trump pulled off surprising victories in places like Michigan and Wisconsin.
Right, and this is so fascinating, and this is why I love talking to you, Scott, because you always bring the most fascinating numbers. The idea of pivot counties is something that really should be on the tip of the tongue of every person that works in campaigning and works in politics. The idea of pivot counties being people who voted for Barack Obama and then switched to vote for Donald Trump. These people are the true swing voters, not independents. These are the people that changed the election. And if you look at how many states have pivot counties, 7 states, you say, have more than 10% of voters that live in pivot counties. An additional 4 states have between 5 and 10%. Those are huge numbers.
They sure are. And look, it's not going to swing a state like New York. I mean, that's a Democratic-leaning state. But if you're Debbie Stabenow, you won with 59% of the vote in Michigan the last time around, and nearly 1 out of 5 voters in your state is in a pivot county. You're maybe not panicked, but you're a little bit nervous. If you're Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, the state that was never supposed to reelect Ron Johnson, the state that was so invisible to Democrats that Hillary Clinton forgot to go there. There's a huge swing in this state. And it's not just from these pure pivot counties. If you add in the counties that voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and then went for Romney in between and then Trump, you're at about 75% of the votes in the state. These are people who are beginning to change their mind about the Democrats.
Right. And this is so interesting, too. I mean, I certainly hope that this is Republican strategy, making sure they know what these people, these pivot voters in pivot counties care about, because truthfully, when it comes time for re-election, and this isn't even, I'm not even talking about 2018 for a moment, I'm talking about 2020, these are the people that are going to change their minds and flip-flop again. So it would certainly behoove the Republican National Committee and Trump and his administration and his re-election campaign to know what issues mean the most to these people.
Right. And I think you can make a great case. You call them swing voters. I would say these are voters who are fed up. They want change. They wanted hope and change when Barack Obama was running. They wanted something to be shaken up. And when it didn't happen, they voted for Donald Trump. They voted against the establishment and the traditional way of doing things. One really important part of this group, though, and it's, again, something when you talk about strategy going into 2018 or 2020, 17% of voters, so about 1 out of 6, are unhappy that Donald Trump is president, but at the same time, they're happier that he's there than Hillary Clinton. These reluctant Trump voters are people that, they look at the president as the lesser of two evils.
Right.
And right now, Democrats think all you have to do is run against Donald Trump. That is not a winning strategy. And especially, I know you were unhappy with the gun control ruling from the Supreme Court today.
Right.
But the president got a big win on his immigration ban or his travel ban. He also got a big win on a religious liberty case. And if things appear to be moving in a positive way, if the Trump voters on those left behind voters and the reluctant Trump voters feel like something is being done, very big uphill fight for the Democrats in the Senate in 2018.
Well, we also just saw that. I mean, we saw that last Tuesday down in Georgia. The entirety of Jon Ossoff's campaign was based just on anti-Trump rhetoric. There was not a single Democrat I had on my show last week or the week before leading up into that election that could talk about Jon Ossoff's platform. The only thing that they could say were either nasty things about Karen Handel, but even her, it wasn't even anti-Karen Handel, it was anti-Trump. And what happened? It didn't work. Voters still picked the person who offered them the best platform and said, we can help you the most.
When they spent all that money on Ossoff's campaign, what they did is they gave those Republican Trump supporters, and especially the reluctant ones, a reason to go to the polls. The Democrats did not have a positive message. I don't know what their message will be, but they need to come up with something beyond just voting against Trump, or it's going to be even worse for them in 2018. And look, we're talking over a year away. It's a lifetime in politics,
right,
as you well know. But the trends in the Senate, or the structure of the Senate races, are very positive for the Republicans going into a year, a midterm election, when they usually lose, the party with the White House usually loses seats. The House could be more competitive, but those issues you talked about in Georgia 6 last week are going to be just as real. If the campaign is all about let's impeach Donald Trump, well, then the Republicans should probably be opening some bottles of champagne.
Right. I hope so. And listen, I don't want to sound cynical here. I'm happy that Karen Handel won. I'm happy that it wasn't the massive referendum on Trump that it was supposed to be. But I'm not sure how indicative special elections turn out to be when it comes to midterms. I feel like the opposing party, the challenging party, always acts like they're this huge referendum. But truthfully, like you said, it's a long time. It's a really long time before 2018. The Trump administration's brand new. They're only 6 months into, not even 6 months, 5 months into the presidency. I'm not sure that it's going to even be something on people's minds by the time they're voting in 2018.
No, special elections are never predictive. What they are is there's a bunch of political junkies who have too much time on their hands and nothing else to talk about.
Right.
And when you spend $50 million on one race, that's not at all indicative. That's as much money as were spent on the 4 most expensive races in 2016 combined. When you have 435 House races, 3 dozen Senate races, a bunch of governorships up, no race will command that much attention. So, yeah, I wrote beforehand, no matter who wins in Georgia 6, it's not going to be that big deal. You look at the fundamentals. The fundamentals in the Senate right now are the Democrats are defending a lot of seats. They're defending a lot of seats in states that President Trump won. They're defending a lot of seats with pivot counties and a significant number of pivot counties in them. That's a tough battle for them to fight.
And that's the thing to keep an eye on.
Republican. Right.
That's the thing to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on those pivot counties. I mean, that's a phenomenal statistic that 51% of Trump voters in these counties, or that 51% of the changed votes were in pivot counties. Phenomenal. That's where to look at if you want to see what's going to happen in 2018.